The first ever big Shadowverse Worlds Beyond tournament has finished, at least I guess for people in the Americas, something like that, or the international audience outside of Japan. And a lot of people have been covering it. For example, Ignidius, one of the main YouTubers, he's been kind of covering it and mentioned it a couple times. And today I actually want to just go through and talk about kind of the meta and the decks. We're going to look through some deck lists and just kind of talk about the state of the cards being used, the best decks and things like that. But before we do that, I guess I kind of just have to mention, apparently this tournament was a complete disaster. And I wanted to spend a minute or two talking about that before we kind of get into the heart of the video. Feel free also to just listen to this in the background. You don't really have to watch the screen for any of this stuff. Or like if you search on YouTube for just this SVO Kickoff #1 Shadowverse Worlds Beyond tournament, if you scroll through, some of these videos are just kind of neutral, but if you scroll through, you're just going to keep seeing, thumbnails and titles like this. Worst tournament ever, $4,000 waste of time. Keep scrolling through. Okay. Nero, I actually watched this one and it just says it was a mess. I actually watched that one and I just can't believe how bad this tournament was. Then you've got, for example, Prussia SV, and he said the exact same thing. The tournament was an absolute epic disaster. This is one of the few YouTubers I watch in this game occasionally. I think he gives pretty good coverage. There he is, Prussia SV. He said the same thing. He said it was an absolute epic disaster. And so both of those two videos I watched, I mean, honestly, my jaw is kind of on the floor as to just how unbelievably bad this tournament apparently was. I didn't play in it, but this is what basically everybody says. You can also go through Reddit and scroll through and read all the comments on some of the threads there. Everybody says the exact same thing. It was a complete disaster. It took like 14 hours. Like I just want to shout out, by the way, flashbang warning. There's going to be some white screens flashing up here. So you have been warned. Like everybody, this is absolutely pathetic, y'all. I'm actually kind of jonesing to get into kind of like, some kind of like a competitive card game right now. And I was thinking it may end up being Shadowverse, but honestly, so far, this is just seems absolutely pathetic. And let me just shout out just how unbelievably pathetic this is. Okay, this website I've got on the screen, for those of you that don't know, this is limitlesstcg.com, and they host all kinds of random different tournaments and stuff. And before I created this channel and started covering Shadowverse, I actually had a separate channel that was actually doing really well, but I kind of lost interest in a little bit. And I was actually covering Pokemon TCG Pocket. I'm just a big card game guy, everybody, okay? And I will probably pop a little bit of some discussion about Pokemon TCG Pocket because I want this channel to also just talk about card games in general. And if you go over literally into the Pokemon TCG Pocket world and you want to play just like some competitive gameplay, look at the tournaments that you have access to in Pokemon TCG Pocket. Honestly, it's kind of unbelievable. It may honestly, I think this is going to probably surprise a lot of you that have never done any Pokemon TCG Pocket and don't know anything about it at all. But literally just look at the screen right now and just look at how many tournaments there are on like a daily basis. It's kind of actually insane and crazy. And I mean, look at the prizes here. A lot of these that say like $10,000, it says, cup soon. So a lot of these will kind of feed into big cups with larger prize. And this one looks like it's probably just a $51 tournament prize pool. Okay. You've got these Frog EX weekly cups. This is what I used to play in when I was doing that other YouTube channel. This is a $50 prize. This is in like 2 days. This one's like in 1 day. This one's got a $20 prize pool. You can just jump in and play it. It's sometime in the next 24 hours, it looks like. And these Frog EX weekly cups, they have about $50 prize pools and they happen basically, I think like twice a week. And then you have random ones like this about once a week, $400. There was even like, I think a $10,000 prize pool that happened not that long ago. And everybody, look at the number of players that these tournaments hold. This $400 one on the weekend, they hold this literally every weekend. I'm pretty sure. This is a content creator for Pokemon TCG Pocket. I'm pretty sure she runs this tournament every weekend. It's got a player pool size of 1536. I don't know if maybe there's some wait lists and alternates in there, but I mean, look at the sizes of these tournaments. 512 players, 256 players. Everybody, I played in multiple of these Frog EX weeklies. They were pretty much always multiple hundred players, and everybody, they ran like clockwork. I literally never had a single issue except for, little teeny tiny minuscule issues. Basically all of these tournaments and every tournament I ever entered in this game, and everybody, this isn't even run by the company. This is just run by random people. This is just a random content creator. Frog EX, I don't know if they're content creators or what, but I don't think any of these people have official ties to the people that make the game or anything. As far as I know, I never had any issue. They're constantly running, just random people running these 200, 500, 1,000 person tournaments, and they all run like clockwork and they never have any issues. And there's also just a plethora of all these tournaments. So, I mean, the fact that this company literally actually has an official kickoff tournament that's, officially sanctioned or whatever you want to call it, like, promoted and run by the company itself or whatever, outsourced. And the fact that they can't do literally one tournament with like 500 or 1,000 people without it being a complete mess, disaster, epic failure. I mean, this, frankly, everybody, this is the only way I can say it. This is completely pathetic, everybody. And I really do. I want to like this game. I want to love this game. And so far, frankly, I have been loving it. Anybody who's followed my channel, I keep complimenting the game, but I also constantly bash the game as well. It's such a mixed bag with this game, right? Like they can never just do anything right and do it great without having some kind of horrible things also. In fact, today was the final day of the chest event. event. Oh my God, good riddance. That is like the worst excuse of an event. It's garbage, everybody. So literally the worst event I've ever done in card games is the 5 chest event. It's absolute garbage. And apparently this was the worst event ever held in any card game for an actual tournament event. I mean, it's just unbelievable, everybody. So we're going to revisit some of these thoughts in future videos. I'm going to do more of these discussion style videos. And also finally, I want to really quickly shout out the fact that apparently Take-Two is coming out. This is going to be the limited format in the game. This is going to be coming out after the maintenance on August 4th, apparently. This seems to be an official graphic. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why we can't ever get any news or shout outs in game about anything that goes on in the game. I guess you have to go to Twitter or something. It's like, why do I have to go to that cesspool of a website in order to get official game information that something's coming out in the game? I don't know why they don't. Is this like a modern era thing where none of the games will ever put any information in the game client? It doesn't make any sense to me, everybody. All right, that's 2 rants out of the way. So, all right, so now that we've got 2 full rants out of the way, everybody, we're ready. We're ready to go ahead and start actually talking about some of the results from this event. I am kind of sort of live reacting to this, so I haven't fully looked through this. By the way, everybody, I'm going to put links to all of these documents in the description of this YouTube video. And I'm going to also talk a little bit just in case by some weird stroke of luck, people haven't already come across this or watched another YouTuber's video on it. I listened to Pressure SV's discussion on it while I was taking a walk today. So I still haven't really looked at any of the deck lists, but so I've got a little bit of a preview and I looked at it for about 30 minutes, but it's mostly live, everybody. So let me go ahead and walk you through what all's in this Excel file as far as I understand it. So the first page, we've got just names and we've got links. These are actually clickable links to all the decks. I actually searched for a long time to find the decks until I realized these are actually clickable links. So if we click, for example, on this first person here, you can see that it opens up this link and you can click these deck details and it takes you to this shadowversewv.com website. And there you can actually see the deck list. It's hilarious that also this was made apparently by a community member. I think it was said that their name was something like Ziff or something. So shout out to that person. Also, why do we have to have that to, get even an easy way to find the deck? The decks, there should be an official way to do that. I couldn't find it anyways, which, again, completely ridiculous, but whatever. And actually also took me quite a while even to find this as well. I will link this website in the description below as well. This is the official standings from the tournament as far as I can understand. I mean, again, it's hard to even figure out what's going on with all this stuff. So you can see here, as far as I understand, it was a 10-round tournament that took, I think it was something like 14 hours or something, which is just unbelievable. And so we had 6 players that went the full 9-1. All right, shout out to Prussia SV. Highly recommend checking him out. He's a great Shadowverse YouTuber. Congratulations to him, by the way, going 8-2. And as I understand, anybody that had 2 losses basically gets to go to the next round. So as you can see, there's something like 28 or something like that of these people. So these are the people that basically hit whatever that cutoff is to do whatever it is that happens next. It's kind of hard to follow even the competitive scene at all in general. And I'm going to save that rant about how literally the only way to enter this tournament was like you had like an hour to randomly go find it on Twitter or something and sign up for it. But we'll save that rant for another time, everybody. Two's good enough. All right. We don't need to do a full 3 rants in this video. So you can look forward to many ranting videos, discussion videos to come in the future. Okay. All right. So again, I'll put links to all this stuff in the description. And so what do we have here, everybody? So we have all of these basically participants in the tournament. If you scroll down through this list, these are all their names. It goes down to like 1,000 something. And as I understand it, some of these, I think they're alternates. So some of this data also might be a little bit off because, for example, we also have, if you look at, for example, the next tab here, lineups. In this tournament, you basically chose 2 decks that you brought with you. And again, as I understand it, you basically bring 2 decks and then you get to see what your opponent's 2 decks are. And then you choose 1 deck that you want to play. And it's probably one of the worst tournament formats of any TCG ever. And every time I've heard anybody talk about it, I've listened to Ignatius and Prussia SV talk about it. They both said that they thought the same way that I do, that it basically seems like a terrible format. So everybody, we're off to a good start on everything related to Shadowverse competitive play. So if we look at lineups here, we can see that they also counted, for example, how many people brought this specific lineup of mid-range sword and Spellburst Rune. And so 244 people brought this exact lineup. And by a huge margin, it was the number 1 lineup that people were bringing to the tournament. And so we have all these stats also of which lineups people were bringing. The second was actually mid-range sword and Abyss. Although if you look at the next, multiple lineups, they're all roughly tied at around like, 4, 5, 6%. But mid-range Abyss sword was actually kind of a decent amount in the lead at second place. But by far and away, the number 1 was sword and rune. So it looks like these are going to be basically the decks to beat. And you know what, everybody, I will admit, several mistakes I've made along the way, everybody, because I was thinking, for example, Portal, I'll try to kind of own up and I'll kind of admit a lot of, mistakes of things I was thinking as we even go through this document. I'll admit to you guys, everybody. Hopefully everyone appreciates that. Consider subbing if you appreciate this style of content. It's maybe not the usual thing, everybody, on YouTube, but, just Portal in general, I was thinking was going to be potentially kind of the boogeyman of this set again. I know everybody complained about it a lot in the first set, but it's just not really looking that way. It's not really panning out. And we will also go ahead and look, for example, if we go back to these names and links, you can see playoffs here, how many people, these are the people that basically did the best in the tournament. These are the people that, as I understand it, again, are kind of going on to the next round because they have a good enough record. And we'll kind of click around a little bit. We'll go back and we'll basically go to the standings. We'll look at some people's decks and kind of see what they brought for some of these even kind of top scoring folks. Another cool thing that you can see in here, there's this playoff conversion. So this is basically saying the following. So mid-range sword and Spellboost Rune, these were the two top decks. You can see basically how many times they were brought to the tournament. Now again, these numbers, as I understand it, may be a little bit off because, for example, some of these people, I think they may have been alternates or something like that. And so maybe take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I think you can still mostly draw, you pretty much draw the conclusions. I don't think it's too big of a deal for even if these numbers are a little bit off. But so we can see basically, for example, sword and rune, by far they had the most people bringing them. Okay, so 634 and 633. And actually, let me just say really quickly, this third tab, it has kind of the same information. So this third tab is just decks. It says mid-range sword was brought 634 times. So mid-range sword was actually the #1 deck of the tournament. And Spellboost Rune, look at that, 634 compared to 633 is almost an exact tie, off by literally one. That's actually kind of amazing. And so basically half of the players were bringing sword and half the players were bringing rune. It's pretty crazy, actually. And then the next one falls off massively, and it's actually mid-range abyss. And then Portal is number 3. And Puppet Portal wasn't really there much at all, really. So that is one bit of a surprise to me. But then when we go to playoff conversion, this is actually pretty cool because basically what this says is 32 people made the playoffs, basically, having a good record, making it to that next round out of the 634 people that brought it. And so basically 5% of the time it ended up, getting a really good record, ending up in the top. Okay. Similarly for Spellboost Rune is basically exactly the same. So 5% of the time it ended up making it into the top out of the 633 that brought it. And the #1 conversion rate was from Roach Forest, everybody. So what this means is it's kind of like overrepresented based on like how many people brought it to the tournament. It's kind of overrepresented in the top players that actually did well at the tournament. And the only one, Prussia SV actually mentioned this in his video that I was listening to, that Face Dragon actually would be technically second, but it was literally just one person brought it. And everybody, I don't know if I'm going to have to eat my words. I've got a video I already recorded that's going to come out where I basically say that I'm pretty much never going to play Face Dragon again for this set because I think it's absolute trash, everybody. So I may actually have to hunt down that deck list and take a look at it to see. And again, we don't really know if they actually played it because they bring 2 and then they only choose to play 1. So we don't really even know if, like, did this person ever even play the Face Dragon? Like, we don't know. But I will be shocked, everybody, if Face Dragon does anything. I really think it's horrible. So we'll see if that's another mistake I make as we go. But one thing I'm going to shout out for those of you that have actually been kind of following this channel, I really did want to go ahead and actually start looking through some results because I'm going to decide what I'm going to go ahead and craft on my account. I've been doing completely free to play to just kind of show what's possible with free to play. And everybody, right now, I could literally go ahead and finish off all 3 of these top 3 decks. And that's probably exactly what I'm going to do. So for those that might want to actually stick around on my channel, for example, I think I'm going to be focusing on, for the rest of set 2, sword and then rune, plus also dirt rune, which, everybody, this is a shocker to me. I cannot believe that dirt rune, aka, using whatever those things are, dirt runes or sigils or whatever the heck those things are called, the dirt. I can't believe how badly this deck did, everybody. Well, anyway, we're going to try it out and also hybrid, and we'll try Spellboost Rune out. I'm going to craft and finish everything off of that. I think we're going to go ahead and do sword and finish everything off of that deck. And then, Roach Forest is supposed to be a pretty cheap, easy to build deck. And I think I only have to craft like 2 golds or something. So quick shout out for the future of the channel, that. And I'm actually ready to go ahead and look at some decks and card choices. So for example, for Roach Forest, I have no idea how to build that deck. I've never played it. So it's going to be good to go ahead and reference these. And in future videos, if I reference that I, took a tournament deck list, it'll be, basically probably from this tournament that I'm getting all my lists from. And now, everyone, also without any further ado, let's go ahead and go through this document, look at some actual deck lists, and talk about some cards that are being used. All right. So in discussing the decks, I'm going to focus on the 3 that I think I'm probably going to end up playing. And that, to me, just for example, looking at this data right here, you see that all 3 of these had the highest conversion rates. and they were pretty significantly better than all these other decks. And also, I think you can literally, some of these decks, like to me, again, Dirt Rune, it's just so surprising to me that it didn't do very well at all. But for a lot of these decks, like, Rune, everybody already knew that this, is a class filled with cards. Everybody already knows, well, I mean, if you look at the Reddit, for example, for Shadowverse, nobody ever complains about Sword, even though you can see it was basically kind of tied with Rune. It was like the number one lineup in the game was Sword and Rune. The deck was brought exactly as many times as Rune, but it is kind of weird that, like, for example, on the Reddit, people only ever complain about Rune, and you almost never see anybody ever complain about Sword. I mean, isn't that kind of odd, everybody? It's actually pretty hilarious. I even read a Reddit comment where somebody was basically saying that pretty much everybody that goes to the Reddit is basically a Sword main, and that person even said, you never see them complain about Sword, and they only complain about all the other classes in the game. I mean, it's so true. Like, why doesn't anybody on Reddit ever complain about Sword and they only complain about Rune? But everybody, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit of a life secret with y'all. If you want good information from people who know what they're talking about, don't get it from the people that are commenting on Reddit. I mean, I'm sure we all comment on Reddit sometimes, but it's not like a good source of information. You need your information to be curated by, like, for example, Pressure SV, who's played the game forever and went 8-2 at the tournament and knows what he's talking about. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna basically focus the rest of the video on these three decks. I'm gonna go ahead and make my personal call, and I guess my call is that these are probably the three best decks. Again, I'm still surprised about Portal. It will be interesting to see what Abyss can do as things continue to shake out. It is like a really expensive deck. Also, like there's no way I'm gonna have enough resources if I stay free to play, which I plan to still for quite a while. Ramp Dragon, this doesn't surprise me at all. I've been playing Ramp Dragon a ton. I keep opening up Fennies and Dragon cards, legendaries. And the problem, my personal opinion on the problem with Ramp Dragon is, like, it literally just has a worse end game than Rune. Like, when I play Ramp Dragon and I ramp perfectly and I have like all my perfect draws and I have all my end game draws and I play out all those end game cards, like play Garyu and you play Twilight Dragon and things like that, and they're amazing. But then you're playing against Rune, and the Rune end game is literally just better. Even the Sword end game, I think you could even argue, is maybe even better or kind of the same or whatever. I feel like when you ramp with Dragon, the payoff isn't waiting for you at the end of ramping. Now, one thing, for those of you that actually play Portal, let me know. I mean, why am I so off on Portal? Like, why does it seem like this is not doing as well as I feel like it really should be? I personally think Portal has the strength, so I don't know. We may look a little bit at some of these others, but like I said, I think we're going to kind of focus on these top three. So let's go ahead and do it. And starting with Sword, since it was kind of considered technically kind of number one in the tournament, even though, apparently Rune is really the number one deck. We're going to go ahead and start. And what you can see, these other tabs here, these are really, really cool. I love these tabs. So if we go to the mid-range Sword tab, this is all of the cards that are basically being run. I don't know why these top ones are darkened, but these are the cards that are basically being run in these decks across the tournament. And you can see on average how many times, if you look at this C column average, this is on average how many times you see this card run. So this is actually saying the number one card run at 3 copies in this deck across all of the players is Luminous Lance Trooper, which is actually pretty interesting to me. Luminous Lance Trooper, everybody, is this 2 mana 1/2 that summons a 1/1, and whenever an allied officer follower enters the field, give it rush. So here's where I'm surprised about that, everybody, because as I said, I'm not going to hold back on the various mistakes that I make. I'm basically reacting to this live, but I did spend maybe 30 minutes poking around the document first to get an idea of what's going on in it. So I did already see that this was the number one. I want to tell you the card that I expected to be number one, which was actually going to be this Zirconia Iron Crown Ward. There is, of course, also the new 6-drop legendary. I would say those were kind of the two that I expected to be the top ones run at 3 copies. Now, it is always possible too, for example, that, this is across everybody in the tournament, I'm pretty sure. This is a silver card. Zirconia is a gold card. Gildaria is a legend from the new set also. I mean, it's always possible that some of these golds and legends, maybe you just had a few players that just kind of entered the tournament for fun, didn't really expect to win, and they were just missing one of these cards or 2 of these cards. But with that said, I do think that Luminous Lance Trooper is in fact like one of the best cards in Swordcraft. Why do I think that? Well, for starters, I think that this Zirconia card, this 4 mana 4/4 that can evolve to buff all your guys, I think that this is in my opinion, I think it's probably the best 4-drop in the game. There is the Cynthia 4-drop in Forestcraft, which could maybe compete, but since that archetype just doesn't really seem to be working out in Forestcraft, I guess we can't really say that one is the best or is in competition. Whereas Swordcraft, obviously, it makes full use of the Zirconia. And anyway, it's basically tied. If you look at these averages, they're almost exactly identical. So you got 2.93, 2.93, 2.91. So basically, basically, these are the 4 cards that pretty much every Swordcraft deck is running 3 copies of. And yeah, Luminous Lance Trooper, the reason I was bringing back the Zirconia is because of how well the Luminous Lance Trooper couples with the Zirconia. And Luminous Lance Trooper, like, I don't know if also there's a 2-drop that's as good as Luminous Lance Trooper in the game, because basically every 2-drop, it pretty much has some kind of a positive beneficial effect, which this 2-drop also has a positive extra beneficial effect, which is that whenever an allied officer enters the field, give it rush. So it also has a benefit, but it's also like 2/3 worth of stats for 2 mana. And I think this is basically the only card in the game that has that, right? There is also the 3/3 for 2 in Biscraft, actually, I guess technically. But yeah, so I'm not at all surprised about the Luminous Lance Trooper. And when I start playing Swordcraft, I will go ahead and tell you right now, for sure, there's going to be 3 Luminous Lance Trappers. This is how I'm going to start, playing mine. I'll start with 3 of those. I'll start with these 3 of this Gildaria. This new 6-drop Legend, I mean, yeah, it seems absolutely insane. I actually said maybe it was a little overrated at first, and somebody even mentioned in my comments, that they thought it was perhaps the best card of the set. I'm kind of coming around to it. I still personally think that Norman is the best card of the new set, but the fact is, Gildaria trades with Norman, so they kind of counter each other, really. And then the Gildaria has the extra added benefit of the fact that you can use it later and not have to use Evo points. So yeah, it's totally insane. Every time people play it against me, it's always good. No matter what the situation, is good. Late game, it's super, super good. So yep, we'll be doing 3 copies of that. Vol's Silent Sniper. All right, that is another 3-copy card in basically every deck. Makes sense. 3 mana, get a 2/1. Kill basically anything on the board. I don't have extensive experience with it. I haven't played a lot of Swordcraft yet. I'm probably going to take the starter deck to kind of finish it off and then craft whatever random things I still need. For the Amelia, I was kind of wondering with the Amelia if this is going to be a 2 or a 3 of, especially now that Gildaria. So you've now got 2 legendary 6-drops that are kind of, I guess, I don't know, are they competing? We're going to look at some of these top decks, and I'll be curious to see, for example, are they using, I haven't really looked at pretty much any of the decks yet. Are they going to be using 3 Amelias and 3 Gildarias, or would you cut 1 Amelia at this point potentially? And Albert, as I understand it, is being cut to like maybe 2 copies in a lot of decks. And I think that makes sense, honestly. I still think Albert is one of the best cards. I mean, when I play Runecraft, I've been playing Runecraft constantly. Albert kills me so much of the time. I mean, I can't, it's like hard to track like how much % of the time I end up dying to the Albert at the end from the Swordcraft deck. And if they didn't have the Albert, I would be basically kind of safe. Amalia also absolutely insane. So ridiculously strong and powerful. These are the cards where it's like, people sit around complaining about Quone all day on the Reddit, but I don't really see people complain about Amalia. But to me, Amalia is on like a kind of a similar power level of like a lot of the busted, Runecraft cards and other busted cards. Ignominious Samurai, this is also another card that really surprises me that people run it as much as they do. I'm going to save more judgments until I kind of have more experience and run the deck more. Prim, Princess's Picnic, I'm going to say I'm also kind of a little bit surprised about these 2, but I mean, you got to run some 2-drops in the deck. So Prim does combo well with a lot of other stuff, but I'll comment more as I get more experience with the deck. Luminous Magus always seemed like a card to me that was going to be absolutely bonkers busted, but as you can see here, a lot of these decks are not running 3 copies. They're usually running 2 copies. So I'll find out more about this. And the cards actually pretty quickly drop off after that. So this Seria Gunslinger Maid, my personal call is I still feel like Seria Gunslinger Maid seems really good. But the thing is, ultimately, since the 2 single damage pings, they don't stack on the same guy. I was thinking they might actually stack. Like they play a 2/2 for 2 and then you play the Seria and it just kills their 2/2. That would have been absolutely bonkers. But since it doesn't, it is not going to be as good because a lot of time your opponent's playing a 2/2 and then you're effectively just playing a 2/1 and theirs becomes a 2/1 and it doesn't really matter that much. So, but if the meta shifts around, this Seria, I feel like, if Abyss, like aggro Abyss, you start facing it suddenly all the time. Like I've been facing it in the weekend lobby tournaments over and over and over again. And Seria Gunslinger, like they could play for 2 mana, the 2/1/1s, and then you Seria Gunslinger, kill them both. It's insane. And Odin, Twilight Fate, not surprised at all. So to see that guy pretty high. Hound of War, people play it against me constantly. Interesting that Juno, for example, is getting knocked down to about 1 copy on average. And, a lot of people kept saying how Urius was going to be this game-changing card before the set came out, but it doesn't really seem to be the game-changing card that people were predicting it was going to be. It's only run at 0.71 copies. Part of that, once again, may be the meta. If Orcuses were running around more, maybe this would be going up. I don't know. All right, so that is the sword cards. Now let's go to Spell Boost Rune. Now here, once again, I was kind of shocked because if I was to predict what the #1 card would be that we would see here at 3 copies, or at least let's say tied, because as you can see, literally every single person that came to this tournament brought 3 Anagrea, 3 Dimension Climb, and 3 Quone. I was so shocked to see Norman down here at 2.5. To me, as I just told you all, I said, I feel like Norman is probably the best card of the new set. So I'm really surprised people aren't. To me, like if I was playing any Runecraft deck, I feel like I would want to, this would be one of the first cards I'd throw in the deck alongside these other ones up here at the top. Anyway, most of these other cards are not going to be surprising at all. I've been banging on the table talking about how amazing I think Sage Light Teachings is for anybody that's been watching. I mean, literally since like the beginning of the game, I've been running 3 Sage Light Teachings basically every single time I've played Runecraft. I think it's absolutely bonkers insane, and apparently everybody else feels that way too. Witch's New Brew is actually being run more than normal. It's kind of interesting. And William down here at about 2 copies. Here's my other huge surprise is this Melvi Adoring Witch. But again, it's not surprising now that I understand that when we go back again and look at the decks that were run, I was expecting this Dirt Rune to be run a lot more. And in the little bit that I've played so far, because I just keep playing kind of hybrid, testing all these different cards, I feel like Melvi's been kind of a little bit too slow, but that's because I want to play, like, for example, a Remy on turn 4 and then like a Juno on turn 5 and evolve it. And I kind of need more dirt. I don't get enough dirt, everybody. So, but if you're playing Spell Boost Rune, I could see how it could make sense that it's just literally it's just a card draw and you do still want that extra one. I'd be really interested to see what these Spell Boost Rune decks are looking like. Burgeon, I called this one, everybody. I own up to my mistakes, everybody, but I also get to brag a little bit about my calls. As soon as I opened this the first time in the set, saw it for the first time, I thought it seemed absolutely insane. One thing that's really interesting is how few copies of Foresight are being played. But we're not going to make any firm conclusions until we actually look at the deck list of the top players, because, maybe this is just across all the players and a lot of players didn't do very well. Most, the majority of the players just have an average performance. So we're going to look at these, we're going to get information from it, but we're also going to focus as well on the people that actually did well in the tournament. Let's take a peek at the Abyss and Portal just to get an idea of what's going on here out of sheer curiosity. For example, when I looked at this right before starting the video, I was really surprised to see this Ghastly Soiree all the way up at a 2.8. So people are really liking the Ghastly Soiree, as well as the Vuela, the Blastwing. I believe that's the 2/4 for 3, if I'm not mistaken, with Rush. Olivia Dark Angel, seeing quite a bit. And wow, look at that. Gensetsu and Yuzuki, the 9-drop. This shocks me to see this at 2.5. Wow, man, I was thinking there was no way you'd be able to run like more than probably 1 or maybe 2, I guess. But seeing that at 2.5, I'm really shocked. The card seems absolutely unbelievably good to me. So strong. But at 9 mana, man, that is like so much mana. And then we've got Karan. This is why this deck is just going to be so expensive if you didn't already open these. I would say like the amount of legends you need for this deck is pretty much kind of comparable to, well, I think they're all pretty legend stuff, but Runecraft is pretty bad, obviously. But you can see, this was pretty legend stuff as well. All right, let's look at Portal and then we'll wrap up with Forest, and then we'll finally look at a couple of the actual top deck lists. All right, so in Portal, kind of interesting to me that Alouette is actually the #1 out of every card. But the most shocking thing to me of all is that this Karula Eternal Arts is only out of 2.5. I would have thought this would have been a 3. So this was, again, another mistake that when I came into this document and first clicked on this, I was expecting Karula to pretty much be basically kind of tied with Alouette at the top, but wow, not at all. It's down all the way to 2.55, everybody. And where is Orcus on this list? Once again, that is a huge, I guess it's a mistake, that I'm making. It's all the way down here at a 2.04. To me, that's just kind of crazy, everybody. People, if anybody out there has been maining Portal, got a lot of experience with it, you're going to have to kind of explain to me. Now, as we can see, we've got 2.6 Ralmias. So, at the end of the day, you can only run so many 8-drops, but honestly, I'm kind of surprised that Ralmia has been being run more than Orcus. I still always feel like, to me, now, once again, this is technically Artifact Portal. It's listed as Artifact Portal, but I don't know. And once again, we're going to look at a couple of the top decks and see, because I'm going to be curious, like, were they actually running 2 Orcus and were they only running 2 Karula? We're going to look and see. We're going to trust the top players. And let's just finish up looking at this Roach Forest one. This is one I'm going to be really curious about, because I've been actually kind of wondering how to build this deck. I haven't really been looking at the deck list until now, so going to get a lot of inspiration from these tournament lists. So what have we got here? We've got, wow, the #1 card at 3 was Fairy Convocation, Killer Rhinoceros. These are all effectively just 3 copies. It's 2.99. So obviously you're playing 3 Killer Rhinoceros if you're playing Roach Forest. 3 Fairy Convocations, 3 of this Bale guy. This is the 4/4 that becomes basically like a 0 coster and it deals 4 damage. You're basically building that up to play and kill through it on the turn that you're going to play the Roach for lethal damage. You end up playing these Bales down. And then these Bales, not only do they add to your combo account for, I think it's 0 mana. I haven't played this deck yet, but we will be playing this deck on the channel, everybody. I think it gets down to 0 mana. So you get to play it to build up your combo count, and it takes out the defenders to get the Rhinoceroses through. Typically when people kill me, they often end up playing the Baby Carbuncle on that same turn, playing the Carbuncle, bouncing something back to your hand, and then super evolving the Baby Carbuncle to then get 3 mana back, building up these just absolutely massive combo Roach turns. And then they'll usually play a Roach and then bounce it back with the Godwood Staff and then replay the Roach again and kill you. Really surprised here, everybody, to see Glade at a 2.7. I've always felt like Glade is one of Forestcraft's overall best cards that they have. So this kind of shocks me. Now, this doesn't shock me, seeing this Ambush from above. I ended up playing with this quite a bit. I actually did play a fair amount of Forest, but I always played Fairies. And I finally just decided that to kind of throw the Fairy deck into the garbage can, beforehand because in the end of the day, I just decided it's just ultimately not very good. I actually mentioned on this channel that if you wanted to come back, I'd probably play a lot of Fairy Forest, but that ended up not being the case. I'm not going to keep playing Fairy Forest very much more, I don't think, because I think it's pretty much just bad. And I remember seeing, Mate Journey Elf, and it looks like we've got the Mate Journey Elf. When I was playing that deck, I was kind of thinking maybe the Ambush from Above was actually better than the Mate Journey Elf. That was my personal experience. As you can see here, they're, effectively run at the same amount, which is basically they're just running all of it point. And Bug Alert, this deck is so specific. It seems like basically everybody's pretty much playing the same list. Like this is the only one of these archetypes where you see every card is basically just listed at pretty much at 3 copies. All right, everybody. So I think that's enough looking at the card choices across everybody running the decks. Let's actually go ahead and start clicking on some of these decks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the following. We are going to look at the top 6 players. These people all had the highest score in the whole tournament, which was 27 Swiss points, which just means that they won 9 rounds. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click through the deck list, and we will kind of wrap up the video with just examining the list and chatting about anything we find of any specific numbers of any specific card, and basically kind of what they were running. For example, were they all running 3 Normans? Like I'm expecting everybody to be running 3 Normans. I'm going to be surprised if they aren't. Are they not running Orcus if they brought Portal? Let's go ahead and find out. All right, so starting with Teuton Baron, the first player listed who is technically listed as first place. And here we go, everybody. Let's just go ahead and start right here. Am I going to have to eat my words, everybody? I cannot believe to see 2 Normans. I'm just so shocked by that, everybody. I really can't believe that. It's amazing. Running 1 Dark Side. I don't know if this is a little bit of some spiciness here. They're running the full 3 Foresight. Whoa, everybody. They're running 2 Pascal's Dance. What is going on, everybody? Whoa. Oh my God. I did not see that coming. Everybody, this is a live reaction, everybody. These are my first times looking. Oh my God. I'm flabbergasted right now seeing 2 copies of Pascal's Dance. Gain an Earth Crystal, gain an Earth Sigil, and gain the Crest. And at the end of your turn, draw a card. Wow. So it's basically literally just being used as 2 mana, gain an Earth Sigil, and draw a card. That is so surprising to me, man. This is why I'm glad I'm looking at these lists, because I don't really know how to play Spellboost Rune. I'm going to need a little help to get me going. So it's really good to see these kind of innovations, or whatever you want to call it, these kind of decisions that are being made. All right. They are running the 1 Ruler. I'm assuming every single spell boost Runecraft deck is going to be running 1 Ruler for the Ruler victory. 3 Demonic Calls. This doesn't surprise me. Of the little bit that I kind of played testing around Demonic Call, it seemed really good to me. The funny thing is, even though I was like in Diamond, a good chunk of last month, I didn't really play against this deck that often in Diamond. But if you want to actually play the competitive, which I do, like I am interested in competitive. Like I said at the start of this video, I'm jonesing for some competitive card gameplay. Like I used to, grind PTQs in Magic the Gathering. I got so close to actually going on the Pro Tour. I got really close. I top 8'd multiple PTQs. I got really close to winning one of them in particular. It was like a nail biter that I feel like I should have taken that tournament down, but I had an epic screw up and I never got to go on to the Pro Tour, but I got really close. Like I said, multiple top 8 PTQ victories. And let me just shout this out really quickly. I went to so many PTQs, and I even went to Grand Prix multiple times in Magic the Gathering. Grand Prix, these were like multi-thousand person in-person event tournaments, and they ran like clockwork, everybody. And they were always in different towns and different venues, and they ran like clockwork. Every GP that I went to ran like clockwork, everybody. How can these people run these 2,000 person in-person tournaments at different random venues across the country, and they run like clock? And you have, this one game that can't even figure out how to run one 500 person tournament, even though they've apparently also been running these tournaments for years, and apparently they've been awful for the entire time. Also, that's what I've heard anyway from the YouTubes. So yeah, wow, only 2 Normans, everybody. I'm absolutely shocked. Wow. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say this: when I run my Spell Boost Rune, I'm gonna be putting the 3 Normans in there because I believe in the Norman. I stand by what I say, at least for now, until proven wrong, and we're gonna see if I'm proven wrong or not. Okay, 3 Williams and only 1 of the Burgent. Doesn't totally surprise me because at the end of the day, I don't know that you could run the full 3 Anagrea and the full 3 Burgent. I've been kind of messing around having like Juno and Burgent and Anagrea, just playing around, and it's too many 5 drops. And the other thing about Burgent also, from the little bit I've been playing and testing, like they don't do well when they come in multiples. The card is really strong, but a lot of these crest cards, when you happen to draw 2 of them, or heaven forbid you draw 3 of them, they don't pair well together, and they're kind of not as great. I don't know. I feel like I'll probably try running 2 because it still seems really good to me, and it'll be interesting to see about the Dark Side. Maybe I'll try one of those out. All right, let's see this guy's Swordcraft. So I'm going to be looking for example, 3 Zirconia. Okay, there's the 3 Zirconia. I'm going to be assuming there's going to be the 3 Gildaria. There it is. Okay, this person is running 3 Albert. Doesn't totally surprise me because, again, like I said, this is the card that I ultimately end up losing to so much of the time. Wow, and look at this: 3 Olivia and 3 Amalia and 3 Amelia. Oh my gosh. Okay. 3 luminous lands. We talked about that one. 1 random Syria Gunslinger. Wow. 3 Phil Dow. Okay. And 3 Prim and 3 Hound of War. Basically all 3 ofs pretty much in this deck. So they know what cards they like. I can't comment quite as much on this because I've mostly just been playing Runecraft, but interesting to see what we've got here. I was interested, as I mentioned, to see how many Amelias, if there's like 2 or 3. And this person is not playing any of the 5-drop Magus, which I find really interesting. I still feel like one of the strongest plays in the game is playing Amelia into the Magus and then super evolving the Amelia. It's to me, it's kind of like, how do you even beat that board? It's like so hard to beat that board. I mean, as Runecraft, which is what I'm usually playing. And they are playing 3 of this Rosé as well. So we're going to get more experience with these decks, and I will come back and I'll have a lot more to say after I end up playing this deck. I'm assuming I'm going to be playing quite a bit of Swordcraft. All right, so let's go on to the second. All right, so let's go on to the next person who had the full 9 and 127 points, and that is going to be Itsuki, who, wow, look at this. They brought Artifact Portal and Roach Forest, everybody. And again, keep in mind, it's kind of like what I said about Reddit commenters. Like, you can't really go to Reddit and all these random people in the comment section and get good information, because why is that? It's because that they don't know what they're talking about. And you can't really get good quality information and knowledge from the masses. I mean, a lot of these people are like 12-year-olds, everybody. If you're 12, no offense, but you know, a lot of 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds, they don't really know what they're talking about a lot of the time. I'm sorry to have to break it to everybody. And that's what, you know, these random commenters are. Whereas, you know, these people that are topping this tournament, I don't know, maybe they're 10 or 11, 12 years old, but they at least, you know, have the record to prove and show like they know what they're doing. Like literally anybody can take any of these decks in the tournament and you can be terrible at the game and you can get horrible results. And it doesn't really mean the deck is good or bad. If you really wanted to judge the actual power of this deck, like I said, everybody, get your information from somebody who's actually played the decks a lot, played them against each other. The ideal situation scenario you could possibly have would be like taking, you know, like 5 or 10 kind of pro, quote unquote, pro players and have them use the deck they're best at and match them all up against each other and play like 10 matches a piece against every other person. And then we could actually really see which one's best. So we use as a shortcut, you know, we're going to use this sheet, you know, we're going to look at these, you know, playoff conversions, but, you know, ultimately this is just a shortcut because, you know, if we took one of these top players who went 9 and 1, you know, they may just be absolutely incredible at the game. They can just tell you like, oh no, this deck beats this deck every time, you know. Oh, Runecraft Spell Boost gets beat by, you know, for example, this list right here, you know, 75% of the time, you should just, oh, this is just the best deck in the game right now. You know, who knows? I don't know. So let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is what I said, everybody, again, with the Karula. Like, you know, this person is a top player. They're running 3 of the Karula, even though we saw, I think it was like a 2.5. Sylvia is also interesting to see how low Sylvia has dropped here. Only 1 Sylvia. Now, that also does kind of surprise me. At the end of the day, you can only run kind of so many 6-drop and so many high drop. And so they're opting for the Karula. See, this doesn't surprise me. To me, Karula is absolutely insane. You should run 3. And here we're seeing a top player. They're running 3 Karula and only 1 Sylvia, which I think everybody pretty much knew Sylvia was absolutely insane. And they are running a full 3 Ralmia. And everybody, here we go. I may have to eat my words here. We've got no Orcuses in this list. This is a top performing tournament performance player, 0 Orcuses. I am quite surprised and quite shocked, but I will admit that I totally got that one wrong, at least for now. And it is interesting to see. I've been playing against this deck a lot on just in ranked matches, this Flight of Icarus Artifact Catapult. And well, I think we all pretty much probably have a pretty good idea of how this deck works. I haven't piloted it as much, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let's go ahead and look at an actual tournament topping Roach Forest list. We got the 3 Killer Rhinoceros. This person is actually not playing 3 copies of the 1-drop that I was just talking about that deals 2 damage to 2 different guys when you combo it. That's kind of interesting to see. They stuck with just the May Journey Elf. And here's a really interesting thing that I don't think this came up when we were looking at the actual numbers, but I've had this played against me personally, is people running this Lamaga in the Roach Forestcraft deck. And even though I think Lamaga seems kind of terrible, to be honest, I think it might fit really well in specifically in the Roach deck. When I say it's terrible, it's because I was trying out, you know, fairy forests and trying to kind of play the game in a fair way, I guess you could say. And Lamaga doesn't feel good at a deck like that. But in Roach, it was really devastating against me when I've been playing against the Roach ones. And it kind of works perfectly. Like, you basically need something to just buy you like 1 extra turn before you combo off with Roach. And it's going to randomly deal your opponent like potentially up to like 5 damage and completely halts and stops them. So I think, and I don't think people have been talking about Lamaga being good and rating it highly, but I think people may have to actually kind of go back and reevaluate. And I think a lot of people may have been pretty wrong about that card just because of how it works really well in Roach. And this Garden's Allure, everybody, I've been saying this on this channel that I didn't think this was as good as people were saying. And you can see right here in this list, it's only at 2 copies. Now, when I said also I didn't think it was very good, again, I'm thinking more in like kind of like a fair deck, if you want to call it that. I don't know if I can use these words, like a fair play style. You know, this is a very specific type of deck where you're trying to combo basically OTK your opponent using Rote. So in that deck, apparently this is a good card, but even that, it's only run at 2 copies. I will be testing out and trying it out myself. I'll be planning on trying all this stuff out. I have all the cards that I need for this, except for, I think, just the Bale and 1 Lamaga. So that'll be super easy to craft and finish this deck. We'll come back and play this pretty soon, I think, on this channel for those that want to consider subscribing and checking that out. And we will probably just use one of these top players lists. We may even just use this list right here. All right, everybody. And with that, you know what? I think this video has gotten long enough. I'm probably going to go ahead and finish through. Let me know what you think about this style of video. I probably will finish up and go through some more of these lists and take a look at them. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. I am going to do more of these kind of commentary, just chatting style videos, if you want to call it that. So look forward to that, maybe about once a week or something like that. Future. Don't forget, Take Two is coming out. This is another thing that is going to be coming up a lot on this channel. I think this is a good place to stop because we were able to see, just from those first 2 players we looked at, we got a good look at each of the main decks that are being run, got a good idea about them. Again, I will link all of these websites down below if you want to go ahead and click on them and take a look yourself. Don't forget about Take Two. I have been really looking forward to Take Two. I love limited formats. I loved Draft in Magic the Gathering. I loved Arena or whatever it was called in Hearthstone. I like to think I am a pretty good limited player. I like to think so. In Shadowverse, who knows? I may be terrible because I'm totally new to the game, but when Take Two comes out, everybody, I'm going to be uploading probably 1 video per day of Take Two runs. I've been saving all of my currency. I'm so glad that I found this so I didn't spend all my currency in the next couple of days. Actually, I was planning on it, but fortunately, I randomly saw this today. So you can be looking forward to that. And go ahead and start saving your resources, everybody, for August 4th, since we don't know what the pricing and how the rewards are going to work. I would recommend saving your resources. And yeah, stay tuned to the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments of what you want to see on the channel as well, everybody. See you later.